But if they need the law changed, fine, I wrote the law. I wrote the fix to it. I introduced it into the congressional record during a special order, but I did not file it as a bill because I don't want to see a vehicle that'll allow the Senate to put their Gang of Eight amnesty bill on that and send it back to us. If we're going to fix the 08 bill, it needs to start in the Senate, and a clean bill needs to get that sent to the president. If we're going to do that. But I'm saying the president doesn't have to have the language changed in order to enforce the law. He's not committed to enforcing the law. And I'm convinced at this point that the president will never secure our border, that there's nothing we can pass in Congress, there's nothing we can do from an appropriations standpoint or a law standpoint that's going to make this president enforce the law. Nothing. Now, we can beat the drum and make noise, and we're doing that, but he's more likely to build the Keystone XL pipeline than he is to secure the border. And he's not going to do that either, you know. So what do? We're going to sit here for 2.5 years and let millions of people pour across our border, load them up on buses and planes and distribute them across the United States, put them in foster homes and put them into every kind of facility we can, and then pay for their well-being and their education and their health care in a country that's got 104.1 million Americans of working age not in the workforce? We can't do that. And the law will never catch up with them. Once they're released, there's no bond. There's no ankle bracelet. There isn't even, in most cases, fingerprints and a picture. Not even an identification check of the people that show up to pick them up. And when we deliver them across the country, and I say the federal government, when I refer to we, these kids might have a slip of paper in their pocket that has an address on it, or a phone number, or a memorized phone number. Oh, that's good enough. We give them transportation to Timbuktu, America, and pull the van up in the driveway or on the curb, open the side of the van up, automatic doors today, you know. We don't even have to get out. They get out and walk into a house. It might be a crack house. It might be a meth house. It might be a human trafficking house. It might be an MS-13 house. They might be MS-13. So who's coming in now? Who's coming in? If you dig deeply enough in there, the federal government will actually tell you. I saw an article in the Guatemala City newspaper about 3.5 weeks ago, and I thought I better dig into that a little further. We found the U.S. website that it didn't refer to it, but the data was off of. Here's what it is. Of these 57,000 unaccompanied minors, this 1/5 of this whole population that have been apprehended on our border, of that, 80% are male. You're seeing pictures of little girls, right? Little girls with their moms. Well, if they're with their mom, they're not an unaccompanied minor. And so where are the boys? There are a few of them in there, I agree. They're 80% male, and that's off of the website that is Health and Human Services Office of Refugee Resettlement. 80% male. And of this universe of unaccompanied children, 83% are 15, 16, and 17 years old. So if you do the math and you do 57,000 times 0.8 to get the 80%, 10 times 0.83 to get the 83% that are that upper age, 15, 16, and 17, you will end up with a number above 36,000 of these young men who are prime gang recruitment age, coming from the most violent countries in the world. The 6 most violent countries in the world are south of Mexico. Not Mexico itself, but south of Mexico. And it starts with Honduras, goes to Guatemala, pretty soon El Salvador shows up. So think of this, if you were going to go around the world and recruit a demographic of people who are the most likely to be the most violent and the most consistently recruited into gangs, that were going to be the most costly and painful and bludgeoning element of any society or civilization, there's no place in the world you could go to come up with a worse demographic than what's being brought in. And by the way, Department of Homeland Security and HHS are completing the crime of unlawful entry into the United States by delivering these kids into these households across the country, never to be seen again, not to show up at their hearing, but perhaps to show up before a judge for charges like we saw happen here this last April when that ghastly murdering perpetrator that killed Louise Sullivan was finally sentenced to life in prison across the river in Nebraska. This rips all our hearts out. I see the picture of him back there. It rips our hearts out to know how the Solomon family has suffered, and to think that the suffering here that's multiplied in this community over and over again, this suffering is one of thousands and thousands of cases across America that we have endured for more than a decade. And still, their hearts are cold. And still, the leadership in this country doesn't listen. The pain for this is great. We're honoring Louise today, and we're launching the scholarship fund to remember her. We're also taking a step and standing up to restore the rule of law. I pledge to commit with you all the way on this, to restore this rule of law. We need to get ourselves a president that will secure the border. We've got a 2.5-year wait before we get one. But as they come in here into Iowa, let's test them. Let's help them put that plank in their platform that says, secure the border, restore the rule of law, restore the respect for the rule of law. That must be done. And since the president's not going to secure the border, it's up to the states to secure the border. And I look at the border states. On Thursday, day before yesterday, I introduced a resolution into the United States Congress that does three things. It sets up three things. It recognizes and identifies that the governors of the states are the supreme commanders of their National Guard. The commanders-in-chief of their National Guard, governors. The second thing is, and that the governors have the authority to call up their National Guard to secure our border. Second thing is, it calls upon the governors to do so, call up the National Guard, secure our national borders. Third thing is, commits the House of Representatives to funding the state National Guard for doing the job that the president won't do. And remember, what we've got going on here is a humanitarian crisis. It's a humanitarian crisis in McAllen. It's a humanitarian crisis across this whole country. It's absolutely a humanitarian crisis to the Solomon family and the thousands of families that are suffering the same way. But this is also a man-caused disaster. Remember Janet Napolitano when she said man-caused disaster? Well, now we actually have one. But the man that caused it is Barack Obama. And he is not doing his job. He has the authority to call up the National Guard and secure the border. He's got the authority to trigger the construction of the border fence. Neither one of those things are going to happen. I want to see the state governors call up their National Guard, secure the border, and if we can get some momentum going on that, then we'll come in behind that, and let's build a fence, a wall, and a fence, and let's get this thing done once and for all, so that we can secure our border and restore our country and assimilate the people into the American civilization that come here. They're the legal immigrants that we celebrate every day. Thank you all very much for coming out. God bless you all. We stand together.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how many of you are here from in Council Bluffs. I wish that the redistricting hadn't taken place, because prior to it taking place, this was our congressman. And in my opinion, this is one of the greatest congressmen that we have in this country today. He is one of the most honest men that I have ever met, and he is a true patriot, and he is fighting not just for his district in Iowa. He is fighting not just for Iowa, he is fighting for the United States of America. Most congressmen, when they go to Congress nowadays, look at how much they're going to get paid and how much they can make on the back end of their serving in the Congress. When our founding fathers originally set it up, it was to go to Congress for a couple of years, do your service, and then go back and work the farm. Nowadays, congressmen go to Congress and they stay there and they make a career out of it. And like I said, they're concerned about what they get on the back end. This man is not like that. And it brings me to a point that I wanted to make today. None of our speakers here are being paid. Every single person who is speaking here paid their own way to get here. They're paying their own way to get back. And they've taken time out of their schedules to do so.